God, is it that time already? It's the 1st of February 2023. Happy World Hijab Day to all of my hijabis celebrating all across the globe. I personally believe that it's a hijab day every single day. We celebrate hijab every single day. I thought today I would actually share my hijab journey because I'm so much more confident now. I'm not a fragile, scared woman anymore. So a lot of people, especially my new followers, think that I'm a born Muslim and I've always worn the hijab. And it's not the case. I'm actually a revert to Islam. I reverted to Islam when I was in college, when I was 17. But the revert story is for another day. I didn't immediately wear the hijab. I never had any intention of wearing the hijab. I always loved my hair. I loved coloring my hair. I loved styling my hair. I just loved my hair. I still do. And then I got married at 18. I was still a non-hijabi, living my life, loving my hair. And then along the years of that marriage, I was actually forced into wearing the hijab. Let's not go into who forced me and why I didn't stand my ground. I was a very scared, fragile woman back then. I was actually told that I was a disgrace for not wearing the hijab and I should be ashamed of myself, which made me just immediately put it on. I feel like I was a baby back then. I was molded into whatever shape or form anyone molded me into. I'm talking being a hijabi 15 years ago. Back then, there wasn't no big conversation on hijab styling, and I personally didn't know how to style my hijab. I was so isolated from my friends, from my Muslim friends, people I knew from the past, and I had no connection. I literally used to take the hijab, wrap it this way and that way. 15 years ago, you would not have recognized me. I wasn't my best as I am today. And every time I looked in the mirror, I hated the way the hijab looked on me, and that's the truth. I felt like rebelling against the hijab. Fast forwarding a couple of years later, I became a YouTuber, a hijabi YouTuber, and that's when I discovered hijab styling. That's when I discovered beautification. That's when I discovered self-care, and I realized that I've been living in a bubble for so long. I then very quickly joined Instagram, became a Instagrammer. I was still fighting with the hijab in my heart and in my head. I really don't want to make this a negative. It's going to end on a positive, I promise you, but I want to talk through my journey because I don't really get a chance like this to sit down and speak about my hijab story. Fast forwarding and moving on even more, YouTube progressed, Instagram progressed. I made so many friends online, friends that have now become best friends offline. Anyway, for years on, I've still got the hijab on. I'm still fighting with the hijab. Then I came across this video on YouTube, and there was a lovely sister on there who said something about, if you're fighting with your hijab, it's because your reason for wanting to wear hijab is not concrete. Your reason for wanting to wear hijab should be for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and for Him only. And that's when I kind of like sat down and thought, oh my God, I've been doing it wrong the whole time. So where I was trying to wear the hijab to please others, I forgot in the process that if you want to wear the hijab, you have to wear it to please Allah. And at this point, I was still scared and still timid, and my reason still wasn't concrete enough, but I was so scared of the people around me that I still couldn't take the hijab off. So it stayed on, and I kept increasing the reason for me wanting to wear hijab is for Allah, it's for Allah, it's for Allah. In between all of this, I was rebelling so much. There was some days where I felt really good, some days where things would hit the roof and I'd take my hijab off and I'd completely rebel. And sitting here now, looking back at everything in hindsight, I was never rebelling with Allah. I was never rebelling with the hijab. I was literally rebelling with the people who forced me to wear hijab. Anyway, fast forwarding, years after that, I have my divorce, and yes, the thought did cross my mind of wanting to take my hijab off, you know, like kind of new start, new me kind of thing, and cancel out all of the actions that people forced me into. I always felt naked without it. I can't explain it. Once you've worn it for so many years, you do actually feel naked without it. And then by then I had children. I was doing the school run, in and out of school. It was just so much more effort having to style my hair or make it look a certain way, or it always has to look washed. And I was this public figure now. I thought, you know what? The hijab is so much more better because rain or shine, you can just stick that hijab on and you're good to go. Anyway, the years went on and I persevered being this Instagrammer, creating content. And at that time, I wasn't getting enough brand campaigns. I wasn't getting anything. I never had an agency that represented me. I was constantly buying new product, what was trending, and I was constantly creating content. And I felt like nothing was moving for me. And I actually felt and blamed the hijab. I was like, if I had been a non-hijabi, I would have been picked up ages ago. So again, this whole thought crossed my mind of, should I just take it off? I'll get better work. And I have this one amazing friend. You guys know Abdullah. Abdullah is like my best friend, my guardian angel. He calls me auntie, by the way. So I treat him like a nephew, treat him like a son. I used to confide in Abdullah about absolutely everything. And I used to say, Abdullah, should I just take it off? Maybe I'll get better work. And he always used to say to me, auntie, don't. If you take the hijab off, I'm going to lose my respect for you. So imagine all of your followers. And I used to be like, Oh, yeah, true. I guess the notion then kicked in after what Abdullah said, that there was someone that looked up to me, as in Abdullah. Then I realized that there were followers that looked up to me, and how would it look if I took my hijab off, etc. So it stayed on. I carried on creating content. And then the lockdown came, the very first lockdown. And it was during that lockdown that I actually met my agency. Before then, I had tried my luck with so many other agencies. And I felt like at that time, I was so controversial with everything that was going around me and in my private life that nobody wanted to touch me with a barge pole. And the agency that represent me now literally just had a conversation with me, and they was raring to go. They were literally wanting to sign me up. I couldn't believe it. So at this point, my manager's a nobody to me, and I'm just like, why would you want to sign me up? Because at this point in my head, I'm thinking, I'm so controversial. Nobody signed me up. Everybody's just like backed off from me. Why? And I remember her words then. She said, you have so much potential. You don't see what I do. And I'm going to cry now because I'm probably everything now that she always saw in me, but I never believed in me. And I feel like the hijab has brought me so much blessing and so much barakah in leaving it on. And I guess it was the test of time and sabr, because I'm in such a great place now in terms of work and in this industry that I have had the opportunity of working with some of the UK's or even global leading brands in beauty and skincare. And that's a huge pat on the back. For me, it's everything, because at a time where I was watching my other peers that I really looked up to take their hijab off, I was in such a mid moment where it was either this way or that way. You call it dichotomy, right? I was in dichotomy. What do I do? Is it off or is it on? What's it doing? Like, what are you doing? Where are we going with this? I'm so glad I persevered with the hijab on. I do really feel like my success has come from my hijab, and I feel really, really proud. It has actually become so solid in my heart now. I am where I am today because of this beautiful cloth on my head. It's my crown. If you ask me now if I still go through moments of, oh, I should just take my hijab off, yes, I do. But I can actually fight my conscience back and say, listen, get out the window. Do you know, like when I go live on TikTok and do all of these cooking videos and things and just have my scarf around my head, don't you think it would be so much more easier if I just tied my hair in a top knot, had like nice little earrings on, looking all cute, and then cooking away? It would firstly be so much more easier. It would look so much more cute. But I'm like, no, sack it. The hijab has brought me so much blessing in everything that I do, from projects behind the scenes that I'm working on now to all of the work that comes my way. I find it such a huge blessing. And throughout my years on this platform, being a hijabi influencer, I have seen the industry change. I have seen people come. I have seen people go. I have seen brands come. I have seen brands go. I have seen brands show absolutely no interest. I have seen brands who were not educated enough about hijabi influencers, to the point where brands are now so inclusive of hijabi influencers. And one of the perks of this job is that we have the pleasure of attending so many brand events. And I love how they are so catering to our needs, right down to the food. They let us know if the meats are halal. They'll let us know if the drinks are alcoholic, non-alcoholic. They'll make sure that there's always a vegan option there for us. And that's now, that's current time today. 10 years is a decade. This year marks 10 years of Modest Street. It is so empowering for me. I want to make everything count. I want to turn all of my negatives into a positive. I want my positives to become a blessing. And it all comes from Qadar Allah, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I know there are some sisters that still struggle with hijab up until today. And if there's anything that I can leave with you in this video, is make your reason for wanting to wear hijab concrete. Because once it's sealed in your heart and scarred and stabbed there, there's no turning back. I always find it fascinating when a non-Muslim asks me, what's it like to be a hijabi? And I'm like, the same way it's like for you to experiment with your hair. We experiment with different textures, with different colors of hijab. And the best thing is that it's risk-free, because we can just take the hijab off and we've still got our hair in exactly the same way. If your hair's greasy, you can just wear your hijab and go out. If it's raining, put your hijab on and go out. If it's really hot, turn your hijab style into a turban hijab style. Let your neck breathe. If I want to look ghetto, I can just put a woolly hat over my hijab, put a cap over my hijab. And if I want to look formal like this, dress it up like this. Does it come in the way of fashion? No. I remember once I was actually blown away by this English writer who had interviewed me when I was going through this really dark phase in my life. And he was like, at that time, it was like the peak of the hijabis. And he was like, you hijabis, you guys are a really growing force right now. And I'm like, excuse me? Hijab has always been here from the start of time. Hijabis are not a growing force. We are, in fact, in my opinion, a established force. We have always been here from the start of time, right back to Khadija radiyallahu anha, a businesswoman in her own rights. So I guess somewhere along the lines, hijabis have been compartmentalized and then decompartmentalized and then compartmentalized again. And for me, you need not compartmentalize us. We don't belong to a specific genre. We belong to every genre. We've always been here. We're always going to be here. If there's anything that I want to be remembered for in terms of hijab or modesty. I want to be remembered as modest street. Bolti zyada thi, but himmat wali thi. I want to be remembered as the woman who helped catalyze the movement of hijab in the beauty and skincare industry. On that note, I would like to wish everybody a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful World Hijab Day 2023.